This really is a perfect conversation for how I think many of us are feeling. And I, I've been thinking about, what it's like right now in this day and age. And, we're all moving so quickly. Our attention spans are so short. We like scrolling through our feed. We can only pay attention to, 15-second reels or TikToks. And I think this impacts the way that we manifest and we create, whether that's inside of our businesses, inside of our lives, and it has an energy to it. So this conversation is perfect for you if you're starting to feel like you are wavering, right? If you're doubting yourself, if you're comparing yourself to in your timeline to what other people are achieving, if you're looking for answers outside of yourself, and if you're doing that on a frequent basis, this is the perfect conversation. If you feel like you tend to sabotage yourself or settle for things because you don't want to be disappointed. Maybe you have the tendency to overcomplicate things or get obsessive in your business about certain things, or you get caught up in that worry and that stress, really up in your head, or feeling like you're questioning your ideas or your decisions or your strategy, or feeling like you have to, the only way it's going to get done is if you do it yourself, right? If you make it happen. This is the perfect conversation. Because even though all of those things may be happening, what I know to be true for you is that you still feel like there's greatness that's possible. There's potentiality that you haven't come into yet that is there for you. So I want to have this conversation about the energy of being unwavering. What does it look like to really stand in faith, right? Because we are missing the point if we are constantly disappointed about what hasn't happened yet. And I want to talk about this energy of unwavering, right? What does it really look like to stand in faith? Because I get this question a lot. So let's talk about the energy of being unwavering. And I think that there really is a big difference that I see when people step into an energy of unwavering. I've witnessed it for myself, I've experienced it for myself, and I've also experienced it with my clients, right? When we really own what it is that we're doing and who we are and what gifts and talents we bring, instead of, looking around at what everybody else is doing and comparing and wondering why it hasn't happened yet or checking for evidence, right? There's a difference in that energy. And I'll tell you that those women, they expand their capacity to do more. They make more money. They probably feel more abundant in their life because they're not sitting in that doubt. So one of the questions I get asked is, how do I change this, right? If I'm feeling stuck, if I'm feeling like things aren't working, if I'm feeling like I haven't gotten there yet, what do I do? And I want to go back to what I said earlier, which is that, if we're constantly feeling disappointed that something hasn't happened yet, we're missing the point. Because the point is not about arriving wherever there is, because whenever you get there, you're likely going to be on to the next thing already. The point is really enjoying that space between having the desire and the receiving of it. The point is really, showing up to be your greatest each day and then building on that. The point is really making the most out of it, milking all of the experiences, being present for them and enjoying that journey, right? And so, when women ask me this question, what do I do when it's not working, when it hasn't happened yet? My question or my answer is not to, start over, scrap that, try something different. It's not about, you better just quit, right? That's never my answer. It's also usually not that you should get a new strategy. As much as I geek out on strategy and I love to create plans and look at plans of actions, I also know that so much of the reason why strategy will work for one person and not for another is because of the energetics. So, I work with a lot of women who are really smart. They know how to sell. They are business savvy. And the reason why things don't work generally is because we're not in an energy of faith, right? We're making a plan and we're taking action, but then we're taking a step back by questioning it. We're wondering, is it working yet? Why hasn't it happened yet? Right? And so that can look like different things. That can look like questioning your pricing. That could look like, putting an offer out there and then feeling like it's failed because, 2 minutes later somebody didn't buy it, or changing your goal every 5 minutes based on, whatever your income is for the month so far, because you don't want to be disappointed, right? Wavering looks like all of those things. So check in, right? This is usually what I ask women is, where have you been wavering? Where are you doubting? Where are you not believing that this is possible for you, right? Where are you sitting in disappointment because it hasn't happened yet, versus really deciding that you're going to enjoy the journey of getting there and you're going to show up as your greatest and best and make that effort each day. So guilty as charged. I've done it. You've done it. We've all done it. That's why we're having this conversation, right? One of the things that I decided not too long ago was that I was going to show up as my best client. And that means really getting into this space of enjoying that space between here's what my desire is and the receiving of it. The other thing that I had to do in order to enjoy that space, right, and to show up as my best client, was to get really clear about what it was that I was desiring, and making sure that I'm not going after something, I'm not striving after something just because I think it's what I should want, right? This is what you should be creating if you're in this industry, right? There's so much different noise out there from influencers on social media, other people who are in the same industry, right? We all have it no matter what industry you are. There's examples of people who are at certain levels. And what I see happens is that so many women, we treat our worth like a transaction, right? We decide that we're only going to be good enough if we get here, right? We're only going to be good enough if the client says yes. We're only good enough if we have this much in the bank. We're only good enough if we make this amount of money, right? So being my best client, right? Really stepping into this place of being unwavering in total faith and commitment has really not been about anything that I'm doing. And we often think, this is something that women think. They're like, well, how do I get into being unwavering? How do I get into that place of faith? What do I do, right? It's not actually anything that we do. It's actually about an allowing, right? So learning not to waver, not to panic, not to question, not to feel like we have to check for the evidence all the time, really, for me, has been more about becoming more of an energetic match, right? Making sure that actually what I'm desiring is what I'm really desiring and that I can connect to it. And then deciding to enjoy that journey on the way there, right? Because if we're not enjoying the journey, if we're disappointed that we haven't gotten there yet, we are missing the whole point. Chasing after a goal never feels good just to chase it, right? There might be some excitement and like getting to those goals or new levels, but that's because we're enjoying the journey, right? Is this resonating? Give me a yes in the comments if it is, and I can see that there's many of you here. I want to really encourage you to let go of feeling like a victim of your results, but really dive into the desires. What would you want if it were inevitable, right? What would you really, really desire if you could not fail? And can you connect to that? Can you connect to that emotionally? Can you really feel that in a sensory way inside of your body, right? Can you feel the feelings of what it would be like to have that thing, right? Or to have created that, or to have actualized that vision? What would that feel like to you? How would you be? Who's around you? What's the season? What are you wearing? What kinds of, how do you feel in your body? What are the desires that you're speaking out, right? How are you commanding your presence? All of those things. Can you connect to that, right? And if you can't connect to it emotionally, then you may have to step back a minute to figure out, okay, what can I connect to emotionally? What is the desire that I can believe is inevitable for me right now? And I'm going to connect to that. And then you're going to stack those on top of each other until you eventually get to that bigger goal that you might be looking towards. I heard it described one time this way, that it's like, if you were, it's a woman who's done relationship coaching, right? If you had a desire to be married and you're single, but you can't really even connect with what it would feel like to be married, then that's not the desire to hold. The desire to hold is probably something a little bit different, right? And to find a feeling or an emotion that you could connect to, that you really could bring up those emotions with. Like maybe you could imagine being kissed in such a way that it would make you want to get married just because of that kiss. Right? That would be the connection that you're looking for. On a monetary basis, right? Like if you can't imagine being a billionaire and you can't connect to that emotionally because you have no basis of reality of what that would even feel like, and you can't really even imagine it, what can you connect to, right? And connecting to that emotionally and then stacking it until you get there, right? I often see women who come into my Money Mastery Academy and they're like, I want to make this amount of money, but they're actually making this amount of money. And so they can't even connect with that. They can't even imagine it, right? They can't imagine making $1 million because they haven't made 6 figures yet. So working your way there and then continuing forward. This is the real work, right? This is the shift, right? Because what that does is it gives us freedom to enjoy our journey, right? We stop feeling guilty about being stuck, right? Instead, we start to really come into harmony with how far we've come, right? We start to acknowledge, wow, I've already come this far. Wow, I've already made $75,000. Of course I can make $100,000, right? Oh, I've already made $250,000. I know what doubling feels like in my experience. Of course I could make $500,000, right? We stop letting other people's successes or things that they're accomplishing, we stop letting that trigger us, and we start to tune into, how can I really cheer for her and see that as evidence of what's possible for me, and also really acknowledge where are the places that I'm showing up that I'm really doing well. We stop looking at what other people are doing as the barometer for what we should be doing, and instead start to really tune in and listen to our own nudges, right? Listen to our own intuition. And instead of white knuckling it and striving for all these things that we think we should want, we get really comfortable with what we're actually desiring. And we start to believe in that and feel good about that. Again, not being disappointed by what hasn't happened yet, but really grounding into, how can I make this the most beautiful journey? How can I make this the most beautiful journey, right? How can I just stand in faith, knowing that even if my desires haven't manifested yet, even if I haven't made that money goal yet, I will, right? It's inevitable. It's going to happen. It just hasn't happened yet. That's a really different energy, right? And we get there when we make peace with our past results, when we make peace with, the fact that maybe things hadn't worked out in the past. And instead of taking that as, that means this isn't going to work either, right? Instead, we make peace with that and we harvest the lessons. We go, oh gosh, that was such good learning. Now I know this, I'm going to take that with me, right? It hasn't happened yet, but it's inevitable. It will, right? Let's go. Let's get there. Let's do the work. That's the energy, right? Those are the real shifts. It's that enjoying the journey, right? Crossing the bridge from, I'm not there yet. Why am I not there yet? Oh, everybody else is there. It's happened for everybody, but it never happens for me. Maybe I should just give it up. To, I'm going to really, really enjoy the process of becoming who I need to become to create this reality for myself. I'm going to make this day, this week, this month, my best month by just showing up for it, for believing in myself, for trusting in the timing, knowing that, magic is happening in the unseen realm. Whether I can see it or not, I've cast my vision forward. I feel connected to it. I'm emotionally charged by it. I'm excited about it. And so, of course, it's working for me. Of course, like, I'm going to just keep doing the things that I know to do to keep myself moving forward. And even if it hasn't happened yet, it doesn't matter, because it will. That's the energy of unwavering, right? It's deciding to be your greatest today and then keep getting better. That's the becoming, right? That's the becoming. And I think that's something that I wish I had realized sooner on my own journey. It's that, we don't just like arrive someplace, right? We don't magically just become a match to the things that we desire. Yes, there are things that can happen in an instant, that can shift in an instant, because we have some experience that shifts us emotionally or our perspective, right? And we can create things very rapidly. But most of the time, we are becoming the version of us that matches up to the things that we desire. And that takes time, and that takes our willingness to pursue those things, our willingness to believe in ourselves, our willingness to dream the things, to connect emotionally with them, to take the actions that we're inspired to take. So I'm leaning into this as I go for even bigger goals. And I said, I'm, practicing the work of being my own best client. And for me, honestly, that's meant reevaluating what some of my goals are, and not going after things because I think I'm supposed to do that, but going after them because it's what I truly desire. And it's creating the life that feels really abundant to me now. And I'm allowing that process to unfold. So I invite you into that experience as well.